Hello, my name is Eleanor. I'm 73 years old this year. I live in a small village in the Cotswolds, Bourton-on-the-Water. It's a place where honey-coloured stone houses line the streets, and the river Windrush flows quietly through the centre of the village. Let me tell you my story. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. I've lived in this house for 50 years. With my husband Richard. It's been 3 months since he passed away. It was a heart attack. He went out for his morning walk and was found on a bench by the river, as if he'd simply fallen asleep. The doctor said there would have been no pain. That was some comfort, I suppose. The funeral was quiet. People from the village came along. My daughter Catherine and son Tom came as well. Catherine came down from Manchester and Tom from Edinburgh. They've both got families of their own now. Busy people they are. I understand that. Richard loved railways. He collected model trains and volunteered at the Railway Museum in London every weekend. He did that for 30 years. I used to go with him at first, but gradually he preferred going alone. I didn't mind, really. We both needed our own time. He also loved gardening. He was particularly fond of roses. David Austin roses, the pink ones. They're still blooming in the back garden now. When I water them, I think about how much he loved those flowers. Our married life was peaceful. There weren't any big rows. We respected each other. He was a man of few words. So was I. We only needed to say what was necessary. That was comfortable enough. In the mornings we'd have tea. Earl Grey. He'd read the newspaper, and I'd look out the window. You could hear the sound of the river flowing. Sometimes ducks would pass by in groups. Those mornings carried on for 50 years. In the evenings, we'd watch television together. We liked documentaries, the ones about nature. David Attenborough's voice would fill the sitting room. He'd doze off sometimes. I'd look at his face. He seemed content. We didn't have many friends. We'd exchange greetings with people in the village, of course. But we didn't have deep relationships with anyone. That was all right too. We had each other after all. Life after retirement was even quieter. Richard had worked at the post office. He'd been there for 40 years. He was a conscientious man. Never late once, he used to say. He was proud of that. Every weekend when he went to London, I'd stay at home. I'd go to the library or tend to the garden. Sometimes I'd have tea with my neighbour Margaret. She's someone who lost her husband before I did. She told me, "You'll come to know what being alone means." I didn't understand then. I do now. After Richard left, the house feels empty. His slippers are still by the front door. I haven't been able to put them away yet. His razor is in the bathroom. Railway magazines are piled up in the study. Yesterday I started tidying the study. Slowly, mind you. There's no need to rush. I dusted the bookshelves and opened the drawers. Receipts, notepads, old things came out. And then, behind the desk, in a corner, I found a wooden box. It was locked. I'd never seen it before. I was curious. I found the key. It was in a small envelope inside one of the drawers. When I opened the box, there were letters inside, quite a lot of them. There must have been dozens. They were tied with a ribbon, a pink ribbon. I unfolded the first letter. It was handwritten. A woman's handwriting, it seemed. The date was 1993, 32 years ago. It began with, "To my darling Richard." My hands trembled. I kept reading.
I was so happy seeing you at Myatt's Fields Park last weekend. The weekdays without you feel so long. I wish next weekend would come quickly.
The signature was Miranda. There was a Brixton address. That's in London. I looked at the other letters. They had similar content. Stories about weekends, longing, words of love. My chest felt tight. I couldn't breathe properly. This was someone I'd lived with for 50 years. I looked out the window. The roses were swaying in the wind. Pink ones. The colour he loved. The name Miranda kept circling round my head. Who was she? Why did he keep these letters? And why didn't I know anything at all? I put the letters back in the box. Slowly. My hands were shaking though. I closed the box. But the questions wouldn't close. I couldn't sleep all night. The letters wouldn't leave my mind. That name, Miranda, it just kept repeating. In the morning, I got up and went back to the study. The box was still there. So it wasn't a dream after all. I made a cup of tea. Earl Grey. My hands were shaking so much I spilt some water. I took the cup and went back to the study. I opened the box again. I took out the letters one by one. I arranged them in date order. From 1993 to 2023. 30 years. For 30 years, he'd been exchanging letters with someone. Every letter had the same address. Brixton, 27 Coldharbour Lane, South London. Those weekends when he said he was volunteering at the Railway Museum. Had he been going there instead? I read another letter, one written in the year 2000.
Richard, the children miss you terribly. Let's go to the park together next time you come. Michael wants to show you how he rides his bicycle. Sophie's drawn a picture. She says it's your face.
Children, Michael and Sophie. My heart sank. I took a deep breath. I put the cup down. My hands were shaking too much. Did Richard have other children? Besides our children, Catherine and Tom? It didn't make sense, but the letter was clear enough. I looked at the other letters. There were stories about birthday parties, school, family trips. It was the everyday life of an ordinary family. The same sort of everyday life we had. No, it seemed warmer than ours. In the letters, Richard was smiling, playing with the children, walking with Miranda, having dinner together. We didn't smile that much at home, though. The wall clock showed 10 o'clock. That was when Margaret was meant to come round for tea. I'd completely forgotten. The doorbell rang. I hurriedly put the letters back in the box. I locked it. I let Margaret in.
You don't look well.
She said. I didn't sleep, I replied. It wasn't a lie. We had tea and talked about other things. Village news, the weather. I couldn't concentrate. I could only think about Miranda. After Margaret left, I went back to the study. I made a decision. I would go to Brixton. I wanted to see who lived there. I wanted to know who Miranda was. The next morning, I caught an early train. From Moreton in Marsh to London Paddington. It took 2 hours. From Paddington, I took the tube. The Victoria line to Brixton. It had been ages since I'd been to London. There were so many people. Walking quickly. It was loud. I got off at Brixton station. I looked at the map. Coldharbour Lane was nearby. I walked for about 10 minutes. It was a residential area. Victorian terraced houses lined the streets. I found number 27, a red brick house. There was a small garden. I stood at the door. I pressed the doorbell. My hands were cold. No one came. I pressed it again. I heard footsteps. The door opened. A middle-aged man appeared. He looked about 40. Brown hair, wearing glasses.
Can I help you?
He asked. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up. I couldn't continue. He looked at my face. His expression was puzzled. I'm looking for Miranda Reed, I finally managed to say. The man's expression changed. He looked surprised.
Do you mean my mother?
Mother, he asked. Your mother? Yes.
Miranda Reed is my mother. But who are you?
I couldn't breathe. He said mother. So was this Michael? I'm Eleanor Lowell. The man's eyes widened.
Lowell?
Yes, Richard Lowell's wife. Silence followed. A long one. The man stepped back. Would you like to come in? He said. He led me to the sitting room. I sat on the sofa. The man sat opposite.
I'm Michael Reed.
I saw your name in the letters.
The letters?
I found them in Richard's study. Letters your mother sent. Michael lowered his head.
I see.
Is Richard your father?
Yes.
It was just one word, but it was heavy. How long did you know each other?
Since I was born, 1992.
33 years ago, the year Tom was born. Sophie as well?
Yes. She's my younger sister. 2 years younger. Two of them.
He'd had 2 more children. Where is Miranda?
She passed away last year. Cancer.
I see. I couldn't find words. Richard. Michael asked carefully.
Is he well?
He passed away 3 months ago. Michael closed his eyes.
I didn't know.
Of course you wouldn't.
You didn't know about us, did you? Michael asked.
No, not at all.
Mom didn't know you existed either. Richard never told her.
What?
Mom thought Richard was single. He told her he'd never been married.
I couldn't breathe. Richard had lied. To Miranda and to me. What about you?
I only found out a few years ago. I came across some documents by chance. I had a massive row with Mom.
Michael's voice trembled.
Richard came every weekend. For 30 years, he spent time with us. He was an ordinary father. An ordinary father. He was an ordinary husband at our house, too. If I'd known there was another family...
Michael stopped speaking. What?
Nothing.
I stood up. I couldn't sit there any longer. I'm sorry for intruding, I said.
Wait,
Michael said.
would you like to meet Sophie as well?
No. I headed for the door. Michael followed.
Mrs. Lowell,
He said.
we're confused, too.
I didn't look back. I just left. I walked down the street, not knowing where I was going. Tears came, but I held them back. I walked to the tube station. I got on a train. I looked out the window. London was getting further away. Richard's face came to mind. The face I'd seen for 50 years. Who was he? Who was I? When I got home, it was evening. I turned on the lights. I saw the empty sitting room. Richard's slippers were by the front door. A week had passed since I returned from Brixton. I hadn't told anyone, not Catherine, not Tom. I didn't know how to tell them. Every morning when I woke up, I'd go to the study. I'd open the box and read the letters again. I'd check the dates, mull over the contents, as if I were looking for clues. I wanted to know who Richard had been. In a 1993 letter, Miranda shared news of her pregnancy.
We're having a baby. I hope it looks like you.
That spring I'd given birth to Tom. At the same time, Miranda had been pregnant with Michael. Richard had been becoming a father whilst going between 2 women. The letters from the 2000s were more specific. There were stories about Michael's school, Sophie's piano recital. The children were so happy that you came. Sophie wouldn't let go of your hand. That weekend, Richard had said he was going to the railway museum. He'd left early in the morning and come back late in the evening. He'd looked tired but happy as well. Now I understood why. At the back of the letters, I found a few photographs. They were of Richard and Miranda together. It looked like a park. Both of them were smiling. In another photo, there were children, a young boy and girl. Michael and Sophie, I suppose. Richard was holding the children, with an expression I'd never seen before. I searched through the study desk drawers further. Old bank statements came out. There were regular monthly transfers, quite substantial amounts. The recipient's name was Miranda Reed. It had continued for 30 years. He'd been sending living expenses to maintain 2 households. I took out Richard's will again, the document that had been kept by the solicitor. When I'd first looked at it, I'd only skimmed through. I'd thought the house and assets were all coming to me. But when I read it carefully, it was different. 1/3 of the estate was to be divided between Michael Reed and Sophie Reed. It said to my children. My hands trembled. Richard had looked after them, right to the end. He'd put their names officially in the will. Catherine and Tom didn't know about this. They'd find out soon enough. When the estate settlement began, I rang the solicitor. I have some questions about the will, I said. He told me to come to the office. First appointment the next morning. The solicitor's office was in Moreton-in-Marsh, a 20-minute drive. It was on the first floor of a small building. The solicitor's name was David Hanson. He was someone who'd known Richard for a long time.
Mrs. Lowell, what brings you here?
He asked. He looked at me across the desk. I wanted to ask about the names in the will. Michael Reed and Sophie Reed. Mr. Hanson took off his glasses. Ah, yes. Did you know who these people were? Yes, Mr. Lowell told me. When he drew up the will. 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Even then, Richard hadn't said anything. Not to me. How did he explain it? Mr. Hanson hesitated for a moment. Mrs. Lowell, this is a sensitive matter. Please tell me. Mr. Lowell said they were his children. From another relationship. Another relationship? He couldn't bring himself to say illegitimate children. You didn't know, did you? Mr. Hanson said carefully. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I assumed Mr. Lowell would have told you. My children don't know either. Should I tell them? They'll find out soon, when the estate distribution process begins. The drive home felt long. My head was spinning. How should I tell Catherine and Tom? Your father had another family. He kept it secret for 30 years. I couldn't say it like that, could I? That evening I rang Catherine. My voice was shaking, but I held it together. Can you come down next weekend? I'm going to ask Tom as well. There's something important I need to talk about. What is it, Mum? Catherine asked. I'd like to talk about it face to face. You're all right, aren't you? Health-wise. Yes, I'm fine health-wise. Just please come. On Saturday afternoon, Catherine and Tom arrived. They both looked worried. I sat them down in the sitting room. I brought out tea. What is it, Mum? Tom asked first. I put the bundle of letters on the table. I found these. In your father's study. Catherine picked up one of the letters. She started reading. Her expression hardened. What is this? Your father had a relationship with another woman. For 30 years. Her name was Miranda Reed. She lived in London. That's ridiculous, Catherine said. They had 2 children together, Michael and Sophie, about the same age as you two. Tom snatched the letter and read it. His face went pale. Is this real? I went to Brixton. I met Michael. You actually met him? Catherine's voice rose. Yes, I wanted to be sure. Why didn't you tell us first? I didn't know how to tell you. I knew you'd be shocked. Catherine stood up from the sofa. She went to the window. I can't believe Dad did this. I didn't want to believe it either. Tom put the letter down. Did you have no idea at all? None. Nothing. How is that possible? You lived together for 50 years. I don't know either. Catherine turned round. There were tears in her eyes. So the Dad we knew was fake? I couldn't answer. I'd been asking myself the same question. 2 days later, I went to the village post office to send a parcel. The moment I stood at the counter, I heard whispering behind me. That's Mrs. Lowell. Did you hear? Her husband had another family. I turned my head, but people avoided my eyes. It was the same at the supermarket. Familiar faces saw me and turned away. Even when I said hello, they just smiled awkwardly. It's a small village. Gossip would have spread quickly. I stopped going to church as well. People's stares were too much. I gave up volunteering at the library too. I just stayed at home. Every night before falling asleep, I wondered, what were those 50 years? Did Richard love me? Or did he only love Miranda? Was it both? Or was it neither? A month had passed. The seasons were changing. The roses in the garden had begun to wither, and the leaves were turning yellow. It was autumn, Richard's favourite season. But now that season felt strange to me. Catherine hadn't rung often after that. When we did speak, her voice was cold. She'd ask, "Are you all right, Mum?" But it felt like a formality. Tom had stopped contacting me altogether. Even when I sent texts, there was no reply. The children must be confused too. Their memories of their father would have been shattered. I got a call from the solicitor. He said we needed to begin the estate distribution. He'd sent notices to Michael and Sophie as well. It would be good if everyone could meet next week. To discuss things, Mr. Hanson said. Just imagining it was dreadful. Everyone gathering in one space. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Richard's empty space felt large. No, That space had never been completely filled from the start. Half of him had been here, and the other half had been in Brixton. I got up at 5 in the morning. Because I couldn't sleep, I got dressed and went outside. The air was cold and the fog was thick. My feet automatically headed towards the church graveyard. Richard's grave was at the back of the church, a quiet spot beneath an oak tree. The headstone had only a simple inscription. Richard Lowell, 1949-2025, beloved husband and father. Now even that sentence felt like a lie. I knelt before the grave. The grass was damp, but I didn't care. I touched the headstone with my hand. It was cold stone. Who were you? My voice trembled. Who was I to you? The wind blew. The leaves rustled. There was no answer. Of course there wasn't. Richard had already left, without the chance to answer, without the chance to make excuses. Tears streamed down. It was the first time. I hadn't cried once since Richard died. Not at the funeral, not when sorting through his things. But now I couldn't hold it back. Why didn't you tell me? Why? My voice broke. 50 years. We lived together for 50 years. Why didn't you say a word? I hit the ground with my fist. Dirt got on my hands, but I kept hitting. You were a coward to the very end. My voice grew louder. You took everything with you when you left. The truth, the excuses, all of it. I cried for ages. I don't know how long. I heard footsteps behind me, but I didn't turn round. I didn't care who saw. Mrs. Lowell? I heard a quiet voice. I lifted my head. It was the vicar, Reverend Peter Graham. He was looking down at me with a worried expression.
Are you all right?
He asked. No, I answered honestly. I'm not all right. The vicar sat down beside me. He just stayed there with me without speaking. After a while, he opened his mouth. I've heard. About Mr. Lowell. The whole village must know by now. People judge easily, but no one knows your pain. I don't even know myself. What I should feel. Whether I should be angry or sad. You can feel both. I loved Richard. For 50 years. But now I don't know what that love was. The love would have been real. Just because he did wrong doesn't make your feelings false. I shook my head. But it was only half a love. He was divided between two places. That's true. And that's his sin. Not yours. The vicar's words touched my heart. I'd been blaming myself all this time. Thinking that Richard had gone to another woman because I was lacking somehow. Because I wasn't enough. But that wasn't it. What should I do? I asked. I won't tell you to forgive. That's not something that can be forced. The vicar spoke slowly. But remember this. You are still you. Richard's choices don't define you. When I got home, the sun was rising. I made tea in the kitchen. Instead of Earl Grey, I chose peppermint. I needed a new beginning. I picked up the phone. I rang Catherine. She answered after 3 rings. Mum, Catherine, let's talk. Now? Yes, I think it needs to be now. There was a moment of silence. Go ahead. I've been struggling, love. You must have been struggling too. But we're all victims of what your father did. I know. I don't want us to drift apart. We've already lost Dad. I don't want to lose you too as well. Catherine's voice trembled. I don't want to lose you either, Mum. Can you come down next weekend then? Persuade Tom as well. Let's sit down and talk together. Yes, I will. I hung up and looked out the window. Most of the roses in the garden had fallen. Only bare branches remained. But when spring comes, they'll bloom again. That's the way of nature. I went to the study. I took out the box and removed the letters. I read them one by one slowly. This time not with anger, but with a desire to understand. I wanted to know what kind of person Richard had been. In the letters, he was a warm person. He was gentle with Miranda, and he loved the children. I couldn't deny that. At the same time, he'd been faithful to me as well. He'd looked after the house, and he'd been there in raising Catherine and Tom. Both could have been true, but that didn't make it right. Richard should have chosen. He should have chosen one and been honest. Instead, he'd lived two lives simultaneously. And he'd deceived everyone. I put the letters back in the box. I closed the lid and pushed it deep into the drawer. I wouldn't take it out again. I decided to leave the past as the past. I looked in the mirror. A 73-year-old woman was looking back at me. A wrinkled face, hair streaked with white, tired eyes. But it was still me, Eleanor Lowe. I'd been Richard's wife, but that wasn't all I was. Now you need to live for yourself, I said to myself in the mirror. For you. The meeting at the solicitor's office was quieter than I'd expected. Catherine and Tom came, and so did Michael and Sophie. It felt strange sitting in the same space, but we weren't hostile towards each other. Everyone looked tired. The situation itself was exhausting. Mr. Hanson explained the estate details. The house and savings would go to me, and the rest of the assets would be divided equally amongst the 4 children. Michael and Sophie kept their heads down. Catherine sat with her arms folded, staring out the window. Tom was clenching his fists. No one spoke. There was nothing to say. When we'd finished signing the documents and went outside, Michael called to me. "Mrs. Lowell, just a moment." I turned round. He approached carefully. "Would you like to have a coffee?" "There's something I'd like to say." I looked at Catherine and Tom. They both looked uncomfortable, but they didn't try to stop me. "All right," I said. We went to a nearby cafe. We sat in a quiet corner. Michael ordered 2 coffees. There was a moment of silence. "What did you want to say?" I asked first. Michael clasped his hands together. "I wanted to apologize. Because we've ruined your life. It's not your fault. You can't call being born a sin. But the fact that we existed must have caused you pain." I shook my head. The one who caused pain was Richard, not you. Tears welled up in Michael's eyes. "Before Mum passed away, she told me that she'd found out Richard had another family. She fell apart then, finding out that the person she'd loved all her life was a liar. Miranda had been deceived too, just like me. Richard had lied to both sides." "What was Miranda like?" I asked. "She was a good person. She was a librarian, and she loved books. She was devoted to her children. She truly loved Richard. Right to the end." My heart ached. Miranda had been a victim too. "What do you think of Richard?" "It's complicated," Michael said honestly. "He was a good father. He came every weekend and spent time with us. And he attended school events. But he was also a liar. I can't deny that." I nodded. "Same for me. I thought he was a good husband, but at the same time, he's a stranger." "Can you forgive him?" I thought for a moment. What is forgiveness? Does it mean saying what he did was all right? I don't think I can do that. But I'm going to stop living whilst clinging to him as well. That's all I can do. Michael smiled quietly. Mum said the same thing. She wasn't angry at the end. She was just sad. Richard probably loved both of you, in his own way. But that doesn't make it right. No, still, he must have suffered too, between the 2 lives. I didn't know how to respond to that. I'd never thought about Richard's suffering. But Michael was right. Living whilst maintaining lies for 30 years couldn't have been easy. As we were leaving the cafe, Michael said, "Could we stay in touch? Just occasionally?" It was a surprising suggestion. "Why?" "Because we're connected to you as well, through Richard, if that's not too uncomfortable." I thought about it. It was a strange relationship, but I didn't think we needed to cut ties completely. Slowly. Let's not rush. That's enough. On the way home, I stopped by the village library. It had been months. The librarian Jane greeted me warmly. "Mrs. Lowell, it's been ages. I'd like to volunteer again. Will you have me?" "Of course. You're welcome anytime." I organized bookshelves and sorted returned books. Moving my hands made my mind feel at ease. People came and went. A few glanced at me, but most didn't take any notice. Over time, the gossip would be forgotten as well. When new things to talk about came along. In the evening, Catherine rang. "Mum, how was today?" It was all right. I talked with Michael. What did he say? He apologized, said he was sorry because of them. It's not their fault, though. I'm grateful you think that. Mum. Catherine stopped. Will you be all right now? I don't know, but I'm trying to be. I'll help. So will Tom. That's enough. Several weeks passed. Autumn deepened and winter approached. The trees in the garden had shed all their leaves, and the river flowed cold. Richard's favourite season was passing. One Saturday afternoon, I went out to the back garden. I stood before the rose bushes. The bare branches swayed in the wind. I took up shears and cut them one by one, the dead branches, so that new branches could grow next spring. I broke into a sweat, but I felt good. It felt like I was tidying something up, cutting away the past, making space for something new. When I'd finished the work and came inside, I looked in the mirror. A dirt-stained face, sweat-soaked hair, tired but alive eyes. I laughed. It felt like I hadn't laughed in ages. Eleanor Lowe, I said to myself in the mirror. Now you need to love yourself more than Richard. In the evening, I took out an album. It was full of old photographs, wedding photos, photos of the children when they were small, family holiday photos. There were many photos of Richard smiling. I looked through them one by one. This time I didn't feel angry. They just felt like old memories. There had been good moments, and there had been ordinary moments. Not all of it would have been false. Some of it must have been real. I closed the album and put it on the shelf. I wouldn't throw it away, but I wouldn't cling to it either. It would just be there, as part of my life. I looked out the window. The moon was rising. The river was glowing silver. The Cotswolds night was quiet. It was peaceful. The man I'd lived with for 50 years was a stranger, but that hadn't taken away everything from me. I was still here, still breathing. Tomorrow morning I should go to the library. I'll organize books, have tea with Jane, and live an ordinary day. And the day after that, and the day after that, because life goes on, even without Richard. And now I know who I am. I was Richard's wife, but that's not all. I'm Eleanor Lowell, a 73-year-old woman, a mother of 2, someone who loves books, someone who tends roses. That's enough. I lay in bed and closed my eyes. I was looking forward to tomorrow for the first time.